We're going to have everyone do just a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes of like introduction and opening remarks, but really this is going to be a two-way conversation. I know that I, as well as everyone else here, is really interested in hearing from all of you. And so I'll begin, and then when Chairman Scott comes, I'll turn it over to him as well. So thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here to celebrate National Apprenticeship Week. Thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you also to my hardworking staff. I can't do what I do without them. So thank them for helping to pull this together. Thanks to Director Chun-Hoon, Assistant Secretary Hanks, and Chair Scott, who will be joining us momentarily, for being here. I appreciate their leadership on these important issues, and I'm thrilled to have a chance to speak with this group of amazing women. So as the co-chair of the House Apprenticeship Caucus and a member of the Education and Labor Committee, I understand the importance of and potential of registered apprenticeships. They provide exposure to the working world. They correlate, of course, with higher wages. Transferable credentials can be used at other places of employment. What a wonderful path. And they also often, if not always, lead to some kind of long-term employment. So really a wonderful thing to celebrate today and this week with National Apprenticeship Week. But unfortunately, we've seen the benefits of apprenticeships historically distributed unequally. Fewer than 1 in 10 apprentices are women. Women and Black individuals that finish apprenticeships still make less than male and white counterparts. And we need to make sure that women and people of color can access the benefit equally, especially now as we recover from the pandemic. We need more inclusive recruiting, and I know a lot of that is happening, and we need to attract candidates from diverse backgrounds and bring them into these high-paying, traditionally male sectors like construction, and especially with new jobs on the horizon with the passage of the historic infrastructure bill. I know Chairman Scott and I were very excited to be at the bill signing on Monday when President Biden signed that bill into law. And also as we transition to a clean energy economy, so many jobs will be available. So we need to expand access to pre-apprenticeships to prepare workers for apprenticeships. And I know as a mom and a policymaker, I really do understand the importance of access to supportive services like childcare. In fact, last year I visited the IBEW training center in Portland, and they have this great pre-apprenticeship program that gives diverse applicants an opportunity to gain experience they need. And they support the whole family. They have their Labor Littles program to help fill the childcare gaps. And offering paid leave to apprentices who have children is a really key part of getting where we need to go. So the demand for apprenticeships will only increase. That bipartisan infrastructure bill will invest more than $1 trillion in infrastructure and create new good paying jobs, many new good paying jobs. And with the infrastructure bill, Build Back Better will create about 2.3 million jobs over each of the next 5 years. And many of those will be in infrastructure manufacturing. So we need to make sure we have the workforce with the skills to meet this need. My Builds Act would help by supporting industry partnerships that enable small and medium-sized businesses to access resources needed to create registered apprenticeships. And we have to prepare our workforce for energy transition to address the climate crisis, and expanding registered apprenticeships will be necessary to help meet the demands of that transition. We need the Senate to pass the National Apprenticeship Act. And I thank Chairman Scott for his leadership. We sent it over there months ago, and I call on them to get that over the finish line. I look forward to learning more about each of your stories, and I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Scott for remarks. And then after Chairman Scott will be Director Chun-Hoon and Assistant Secretary Hanks. Chairman Scott.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Congresswoman Bonamici, for hosting today's roundtable discussion to honor National Apprenticeship Week and discuss the importance of registered apprenticeships. It's an honor to join you, Acting Assistant Secretary Hanks, Director Chun-Hoon, as well as an impressive group of apprenticeship providers and apprentices. Workforce development is one issue in which the interests of workers, businesses, and our economy are closely aligned. As we continue to recover from the pandemic, workers across the country are looking for higher paying jobs that allow them to provide for themselves and their families. Meanwhile, the shortage of skilled workers is a major challenge for employers and our economy. So we have to use every tool we have to help workers find jobs and prepare them for high quality employment opportunities. The most successful of these tools is, without question, our registered apprenticeship program. In fact, registered apprenticeships are so successful that 92% of apprentices are employed upon completion, and they earn an average starting wage of more than $72,000 a year. Yet Congress has not reauthorized the National Apprenticeship Act since it was first passed in 1937. And our workforce development system has not received a meaningful investment in any of the COVID relief packages. So simply put, we have left our businesses, our nation's best workforce development initiatives, under-resourced at a time when it is most needed. In response, earlier this year, the House passed the National Apprenticeship Act of 2021. Investments made in this legislation will create an additional 1 million apprenticeship opportunities and will yield more than $10 billion in net benefits to taxpayers through higher tax revenue and decreased spending on social safety net programs. Construction trades and their industry partners have long proven that the registered apprenticeship model works and can be expanded and scaled up into non-traditional sectors. That's why industry associations, state workforce development agencies, civil rights groups, labor unions, and other stakeholders support this bill. It also explains why Democrats and Republicans provided a resounding vote in support of the House, in support when it was in the House. And the administration's enthusiastic support for the National Apprenticeship Act of 2021 will help keep the momentum going as we await Senate action. Meanwhile, we have an immediate opportunity to expand registered apprenticeships and other earn and learn programs through the Build Back Better Act. The proposal we're advancing in the House will invest $20 billion in workforce development, including more than $1 billion to expand registered apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, and youth apprenticeship opportunities. Passing the Build Back Better Act and the National Apprenticeship Act of 2021 will be a major boost for workers and businesses across the country. So thank you again, Congresswoman Bonamici, for the opportunity to join this roundtable and for your continuing work to promote and expand registered apprenticeships. And I yield back to you.
Thank you, Chairman Scott. And we're very fortunate to have the Department of Labor represented here today. First, we're going to hear from Women's Bureau Director, Wendy Chun-Hoon.
Thank you so much, Representatives Bonamici and Scott, for your leadership, and everyone else on the call for your incredible leadership in this space. My name is Wendy Chun-Hoon. I'm honored to serve as the 20th Director of the Women's Bureau at the Department of Labor, which was chartered by Congress in 1920 and serves as the only federal agency that's exclusively focused on promoting the interests of the more than 75 million working women in the United States. We simply advocate for gender and racial equity. We push the policies that will make a difference to working women, such as paid leave and apprenticeships. We research problems and we fund programs that solve them. And we all know that the pandemic really intensified the challenges that women already faced. A gender and racial wage gap that's driven really in large part by a deeply segregated workforce, where too many good jobs, good wage jobs, are still considered non-traditional for women. And systemic racism and sexism has really meant that women's work, especially caring for children and our elderly, is vastly underpaid and undervalued. So many women were already on the brink, barely balancing demands of low-wage jobs and their families' needs, and then schools and childcare shuttered. As of the last jobs data, we're still down 2.6 million women in the labor force. And women of color, we all know, have bear the brunt of the job losses, and they're facing the slowest recovery. Black women's employment is still down 5.3% from February 2020. So even as schools have reopened, women have continued to face wage and wealth gaps that are preventing them from getting ahead and retiring secure. And we're really feeling that we're one positive COVID case in our kids' classrooms away from looping right back into an unstable work environment. The infrastructure package signed by the President Monday, the Build Back Better investments that are being considered by Congress right now, will address two of the largest hurdles to women's economic security: increasing wages for women working in the care economy, and also creating opportunities to connect women, and particularly women of color, to higher wage jobs. The Women's Bureau knows what it takes to secure employment opportunities for women. Since 2017, through our WANTO, Women in Apprenticeship and Non-Traditional Occupations Grant Program. We've helped women gain access to apprenticeships and careers in higher paying fields. Representative Scott said this, an average graduating wage of $72,000. Apprenticeships are really life-changing opportunities for women. We mark tomorrow, which is Thursday of each National Apprenticeship Week, as Women in Apprenticeships Day to really focus the attention on this significant tool of apprenticeships and what they can be for women's employment and economic success. You know, as Congress makes these considerable investments in apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, we have to ensure that these investments include programs that are intentionally focused on helping women and people of color, as we've said. The WANTO grant program is really the only source of federal funding that's exclusively focused on helping women enter into apprenticeship and non-traditional work. The WANTO grant program is small but mighty. We, with $1.75 million that's appropriated annually, we're helping to change outcomes for individual women and for their work environments, really important. Women's Bureau has, for the past 100 years, challenged the status quo. We're really proud to partner with grantees and field leaders like Kelly and the Oregon Tradeswomen to raise the visibility of and the opportunities for women. Challenging the status quo isn't easy. It requires bold and sustained investments in women's work. So I'm so pleased. I'm excited to hear from everybody today about your own experience. We've got a historic opportunity in front of us to really challenge gender norms and create opportunities for a financially secure future for all women. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next, we're going to hear from the Employment and Training Administration Acting Assistant Secretary Hanks. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Bonamici, and thank you so much, Chairman Scott. I know, I think I speak for myself and Wendy and our colleagues at the Department of Labor, that we really appreciate all that you both do as champions for registered apprenticeship, for workforce development, and for many issues that impact us in the department and workers across the country. So I won't repeat everything that's been said. I think we've learned a lot today and heard a lot today about the value of registered apprenticeship, the ability to earn while you learn, and the ability for registered apprenticeship to be a tool to create a better, more inclusive, diverse workforce. But I will highlight a few things that we're doing to help make that happen. So one thing, I had a blog post at the beginning of the week where I wrote about my aunt who was an apprentice in 1978. She went through an IBEW apprenticeship. She was the second woman and also the second Black woman, which I think is pretty cool for 1978. But we haven't made enough progress since then. It is incredible that she had this opportunity, an opportunity that has given her a career that has lasted even today. She is still, she's not IBEW anymore, she's UAW, but she's still a union apprentice, or not an apprentice, excuse me, she's a master electrician. And you know, that job, that stability has allowed her two daughters to go to college, for her to have a home. It's really been transformative in her life. And we need more women to have those types of opportunities. And so a lot of the investments that we're making are dedicated toward ensuring that more women can, and certainly women of color can have those opportunities going forward. So some of the things that we're doing to strengthen apprenticeship pathways and make them more accessible. So first, earlier this year, we awarded more than $99 million in state apprenticeship expansion, equity, and innovation grants that will bolster state investments to expand programming and inclusive recruitment strategies to attract a diverse workforce. These grants also aim to develop partnerships with new industries and non-traditional occupations, including a focus on underrepresented populations. We also invested $31 million through cooperative agreements to establish 4 registered apprenticeship technical assistance centers of excellence. These centers will provide technical assistance to organizations to expand, modernize, and diversify apprenticeship programs. This includes technical assistance to employers and industry to build out registered apprenticeship programs across a range of industries and jobs, including those in America's critical supply chains. The centers will also work with public and private sector partners to expand opportunities in registered apprenticeship for women, for youth, for people of color, rural communities, justice-involved individuals, and individuals with disabilities. As I mentioned, for too long, underrepresented populations, marginalized groups have faced barriers into entering into apprenticeships that lead to careers and pay well. And as we work to build back better, these grants will empower workers from underrepresented populations to get the training and the supports, to Wendy's point, that they'll need to succeed. But we have to do more. We need to ensure that all workers, especially those who have been marginalized, have meaningful access to and support in registered apprenticeship. And we have to ensure that we are growing high quality programs that lead to good jobs for all who participate. This type of systems change can be achieved and this tools provided through reauthorization of the National Apprenticeship Act, which we've talked a great deal about today. And again, I think Chairman Scott and Representative Bonamici for their championship there. And the Builds Act that Representative Bonamici and Thompson recently reintroduced, and the companion bill introduced by Senators Kaine and Portman in the House. And we look forward to working with you on those going forward. We also know, and Wendy spoke to, the Build Back Better framework and the importance of investing in training programs that will prepare millions of Americans for high quality jobs in growing sectors. And that includes a historic investment in registered apprenticeship that the chairman mentioned that we are very excited about, really deeply grateful for, and are eager to sort of get to the finish line so we can dig in. And then the last thing I'll mention is just going back to National Apprenticeship Act, we really appreciate the support there. We have a system that we know works. It provides labor and equal opportunity employment standards that help make these quality programs for workers. This is still a 1937 law and we're operating on regs. So I think we can agree that one way and an important way to accelerate modernization in our system is to have a law that sort of reflects the changing nature of apprenticeship and also the changing nature of our workforce and the shape of our workforce as well. So we really appreciate the support and continued support there because we know this will be so important to making apprenticeships more accessible, more diverse, and more inclusive over time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, things have changed a bit since 1937. So yes, past time to get that over the finish line. So I'm going to tell you the order now. Again, thank you to the Department of Labor representatives. Next, we're going to hear from pre-apprenticeship provider introductions, Kelly Kupcak from Oregon Tradeswomen, but then Pat Daniels. After that will be Jenna Hill from IUPAT, and then Aliyah Manasari, I hope I said your name right, from CityWorks, and then Katrina Sumter with IBEW, and Riley Anthony with SMART. So Kelly, Oregon Tradeswomen.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here today. And thank you, Assistant Secretary Hanks and Director Chun-Hoon. Of course, you, Congresswoman Bonamici, we love you so much here in Oregon and our Oregon Tradeswomen.
We love you too.
Thank you. And Chairman Scott for your bold leadership that is helping us to shift the paradigm, build true equity, and change women's lives. I am so honored and privileged to be the executive director at Oregon Tradeswomen. I'm living proof of what pre-apprenticeship can do and registered apprenticeship, a union member of Operating Engineers Local 18 back in Ohio, but here in Portland, Oregon, doing good work that I'm really proud of with my colleague, Pat Daniels, who's the executive director at Constructing Hope, where we not only provide pre-apprenticeship training for women, men of color, formerly incarcerated individuals, we are working really hard as advocates in this space too to talk about how our industry needs to change so that not only once women and people of color get in to registered apprenticeship in the construction sector, they can stay in because we know they face discrimination, job site hostility. So all of that work that we're doing is so important in changing lives, and your bold leadership is so important. We've been a recipient of the WANTO grant that has helped us invest into the women's lives who come through our program. 73% of whom we serve are very low income. When they move into the trades, and especially on the union side, they are making family supporting wages. And when we talk about a community of care and a care economy, we know that those supportive services like childcare, transportation, housing stability, make a difference in the lives of apprentices and leads to their success. And I want to say thank you to my sisters here today who are going to talk about their role and their experience as apprentices. I wish you all luck. Thank you for being courageous out there in what's still considered a man's world. We are so proud of you, and I'm so grateful to be here celebrating National Apprenticeship Week with you all. Thank you
So much, Kelly. We're so grateful that you're here. Pat Daniels from Constructing Hope. So nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you. First of all, I'm really honored to be here and to be invited to the table. And Representative Bonamici, I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing. And just to give you an example of that, Constructing Hope targets 100% formerly incarcerated. 100% low income. 80% of our people are formerly incarcerated. But with that, because we are partnered to Oregon Tradeswomen, 13% of our graduates and our participants are women. So the work that you're doing for us also helps with everything that Kelly mentioned, but for our people, it's the expungements that we're providing so that people don't get walked off the job site once that they are employed, because once you make a mistake, you shouldn't have to pay for that your entire life. These dollars help us with mentoring. One of the key things that help our participants become successful is the ongoing mentoring. So of course, my women have access to what Oregon Tradeswomen is doing because the larger percentage of my graduates are men. But this support service it makes a huge difference. Just to give you an example, I want to just share that one of our women is now graduated in 2015, and now she's the JATC coordinator at the Labor. She's opening doors for the women who are sitting here and all those who can come behind her. As well as I want to just point out that these dollars have also not only helped us with pre-apprenticeship, but it's also helping with contracting. We have 10 graduates at this point since inception of our program that have become contractors. And most recently, we have the first African-American solar contractor. So I want you to know that the dollars and all of your hard work is really and truly making a big impact in the community. When you look at participants at Constructing Hope are 100% low income, our population is 80% BIPOC and 13% women. So again, thank you all and everyone. Thank you all, Wendy, Angela, Representative Scott, and Alicia. Thank you all for the work that you're doing to make a huge difference in people's lives.
Oh, and thanks to you, Pat. And I thought about Constructing Hope when I listened to the amazing introduction of the president on Monday. And if you didn't see it, please go back and watch it from a woman who said she was formerly incarcerated. And there she was, now a tradeswoman with a good job, standing on the stage, introducing the president of the United States. It was just such a wonderful story. So inspiring. Next, we're going to hear from Jenna Hill, International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Jenna, you are still muted.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Bonamici, for hosting this and for all the staff of the Department of Labor. I'm really humbled to just see so many women involved in the trades and making it possible for me to be here. As was said, my name is Jenna Hill. I'm a third-year commercial painter and a member of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio, but I'm currently working in the DMV area. After high school, I wasn't really sure that college was for me. So instead of going to college, I decided to just work, but without a degree or formal training, my job options were pretty limited. I've worked as a grocery bagger, a cashier, a housekeeper, and finally ended up in sales as an operations manager. But when my store in 2019 suddenly announced its closure, I was left with a choice. I could continue with retail, where the pay wasn't very good, nor the benefits, or I could try something new. I learned about the trades through my dad, who's a union electrician in Ohio. And not only did he provide a great standard of living for me and my 4 siblings, but he also loved his work and would show it off for any chance he got. And I guess I wanted that for my career, so I thought, why don't I try my hand at a trade? Since joining the apprenticeship program, I make a lot more than I ever did in retail, and the benefits are a lot better. But more importantly, I get the same sense of pride in my work that my dad does. I love, at the end of a project, like I did this or I helped with this. Yeah, I'm excited to graduate in a year with 0 college debt, and I'm excited for the opportunities that the passing of this new infrastructure bill will bring. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much. We're so grateful that you're with us, and I see that now we have a link in the chat for the wonderful remarks that were made in the introduction. And next, we're going to hear from Aaliyah. I hope I said your name correct, ma'am. Sorry, from CityWorks, DC.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. I absolutely love the energy that we have going on this call. But to start my introduction, my name is Aaliyah Mansoray. I am in the 12th grade, and I attend Friendship Technology Preparatory Academy, which is located in downtown DC. So just to start off, that I work at a company called Accenture, and I first started during October of 2020 as a human resource apprentice. And some of the things that I do in human resource is I help welcome some of our new workers into the company. So you can say that I help onboard them, which means I'm the face of Accenture. I'm the first face that they get to see. And one of the reasons that I decided to join this apprenticeship at Accenture was that I needed something more meaningful to do with my time when I first joined, because I didn't want to like just spend all of my time focusing on school assignments every single day. I wanted to do something a little bit more. And then also, for me at the time who did not know what apprenticeship meant, like I just saw it and I was like, I don't know what that is. And now I'm super curious about it. So now I have to go pursue this so that I can sate my curiosity. This is just a perfect thing for me to do. And so as I'm about to close off, I just want to say that as I reflect on these 18 months that I've spent at Accenture, I just want to say I'm so excited to share with everyone my aspects of growth during this apprenticeship. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for joining us. What an inspirational story. Next, we're going to hear from Katrina Sumter, IBEW Local 26. Katrina, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. So my name's Katrina. I am a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the Local 26 union in Washington, D.C. So I'm a native of the D.C. area. I worked at a credit union for about 12 years, and I was well below the median income. I was making a little over $50,000 a year, way below the median income for D.C. And there was like no clear path to advancing in my career without possibly going to graduate school and accumulating even more student loan debt. So I started looking into the trades because I was also restless with working at a desk all day. And when I was looking for vocational schools with an electrician program, I came across the JATC, which is an apprenticeship program. And now that I'm at the beginning of my 4th year in the apprenticeship, I'm making more money than I was making at the credit union. If I hadn't joined the apprenticeship, I'd probably still be driving a 2010 Versa, living in a not so savory neighborhood. So it's had a huge impact on my life.
Thank you so much, Katrina, for sharing your story. We have next Riley Anthony with the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, SMART. Hi, Riley.
Hi. First of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, everyone, those were lovely stories. To start off, I'm from Pasadena, Maryland, and I work for a company. Actually, I'm sitting in my boss's office right now. He's my dad. I work for a company called Fingal's Metalworks in Baltimore. There are a lot of reasons why I decided to join the apprenticeship, but the biggest one, the most personal reasons for me are that, I'm my family's 3rd generation union sheet metal worker. My grandfather was a union sheet metal worker, and it was, the career he was able to provide for his family and his wife, who was a stay-at-home mom. And it did the same for my father, who had 6 kids. And, he decided to start his own company 22 years ago, which I've been working for the last 6. I started working with him when I was 14, and I've always enjoyed it, and he's always been supportive of me, regardless of being a woman. And honestly, I'm giddy sitting here looking at all of you because for as long as I can remember, I've been the only woman in the shop, besides our secretary. And so it's really encouraging to see all of you here and to hear from all of you. I just I really would like to say thank you to all of you, but also my union representatives who I think are in this, some may be in this chat as well, because they've really offered my father a lot of opportunities over the years and with his business, and I think they'll offer me the same opportunities as well. You know, I just decided to start my own business as well, along with my father. So Diversified Steelworks, you know, will be a partner of his business, Fingles. And you know, none of this would be possible without him, and without him having been a union sheet metal worker, and you know, my upbringing in the shop as well. So thank you all for having me and letting me speak. Yeah.
Riley, thank you so much. You know, when we talk about policy in the abstract, it's not nearly as meaningful as when we hear stories about how these investments, these policies, these programs really do change people's lives. So really, this was a wonderful introduction from everybody. And I think I'm just going to open it up to discussion with a couple of questions. I'd like to hear from the apprentices and pre-apprentices, what barriers did you face when you were trying to decide to enter into a pre-apprenticeship or apprenticeship? What barriers did you face and how did you overcome them? And you can just either start talking or raise your hand or raise your virtual hand. What were some of the obstacles that you found along the way? Jenna? Yeah, there you go.
Took me a minute. I was like, where's mute? I would say my biggest obstacle was mental. Like for me, I don't think there were a ton of physical ones, but I was rather intimidated because I knew it was a career dominated by men. So just getting over that. But once I did, I think all the guys I've worked with like have been really supportive. Like I've had a lot of great role models. Men and women, especially Lynn Campbell in Ohio, who just recently retired, and Cheryl. Like I've had a lot of great mentors, and they just really helped me come out of my shell a bit and be more comfortable, whether I'm the only woman on the job site or not. So.
That's really helpful. And I have had conversations with women who said sometimes it's hard to make that decision. You know, you're going into a male dominated field. So anybody else want to weigh in on what are the barriers and how did you overcome them so we can learn from that? Anybody else have ideas on that?
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind like piecing in. So for me, I had two big barriers. One, I was really concerned whether or not I could balance the apprenticeship in addition to staying at home and dealing with my home responsibilities while also trying to focus on school and dealing with my school obligations. I was very concerned about that. And then secondly, it had to do with my career option. My family had been really strict about me going into a career that would guarantee financial stability or almost comfort. And I wasn't too sure if I was ready to go against them, I guess you can say. And so what I ended up doing and how I ended up talking with all of you today was I took a risk. I told myself, you don't know anything until you try it. You don't know if you can balance this until you try balancing it. And you don't know if you are prepared to go against what your family wants for you unless you take those 2 steps to do it. So that's how I got rid of my barriers.
That's wonderful. So you just dove in and were able to face your fear and be successful. That's very, very inspirational. Katrina, I saw you raise your hand.
So for me, all I had was office experience. I did not know anybody in the union. So when I applied the first time, I did not get in. The reason why I was able to get my foot in the door was because there was a program for DC residents called Step Up. And I was able to start working in the field, earning first year apprentice pay, which was very important because there was no way I could afford to work for less. And I was able to get experience, letters of recommendation. So when I applied again, I got in with no problem.
That's great. And, I think about, some of you told your story about how you found out about an apprenticeship, but well, if you didn't already share that, how did you actually find out? Because I think a lot of times people don't realize the opportunity that's there. So how did you find out about your program? And what would you tell somebody, a young person who might not know about an apprenticeship program? What would you tell them? That's a two-part question. How did you find out about your program? And what would you tell somebody who doesn't know what an apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship is?
I found it when I literally stumbled upon it by accident when I was looking for vocational schools or programs with on-the-job training, and I just stumbled upon it. I feel like that is literally what the model for like an internship should be. Instead of expecting broke college students to work for free, they should be earning experience and leveling up their salary as they learn more, which is what an apprenticeship does.
Absolutely. What would you tell somebody who might not know about an apprenticeship?
If they're not sure that college is for them, I would encourage them to try it because you're getting paid to learn on the job and you're not going to accumulate any debt. And we need people in the trades.
Absolutely. I know Chairman Scott and I are working hard. Chairman Scott and I are working hard to make college affordable for all, but we still have some work to do in that regard. Who else would like to share how you found out about your program, your apprenticeship or pre-apprenticeship program? And what would you tell someone, a young person today who might not know about an apprenticeship and the opportunities?
Okay, I don't mind speaking again. But so I found out about my apprenticeship opportunity by chance. So similar to Katrina, I actually had a friend of mine tell me about this apprenticeship opportunity because the school told her about it. And initially I was uncertain about it. And so I kind of passed it off my shoulders, but then it was brung up again. And I was like, okay, there goes the curiosity. Now you're in my face a second time. It's time that I just go and pursue you. And then for the second part of your question, I would tell this person that, hey, you may not know what this apprenticeship is. You may be looking at the description of the apprenticeship and say, I don't think this is for me. I can't do this at all. But I'm just going to tell you that you feel uncertain. You're feeling a great sense of uncertainty. And there are so many people around you. And actually, I want to say there's so much support around you that could help answer your questions and make you feel as if, hey, I can take this chance and go to this apprenticeship. All right. Even if you have to ask me because I told you about it, because I'm having such a fantastic time in my apprenticeship, or if you want to go talk to maybe some teachers that have, talk one-on-one with some of the program managers for my apprenticeship with CityWorks DC. There are so many people around you that you can talk to just to get rid of this uncertainty and for you to take a chance.
That's wonderful. Riley, what would you tell somebody, one of your peers or someone who's a young person who might not know about what an apprenticeship is?
So when I graduated high school, there were some, well, when I was in high school, I'm sorry, there were some programs that would, kind of start students up into apprenticeship programs, or put them in the right track. And a lot of the conversations that I remember having were always geared towards men in those, in the fields that we're talking about. I am an apprentice in the sheet metal union, and my union has been nothing but supportive of me. But the information getting to women is, I think, where we're struggling. I was lucky to have a father who was a union worker, but I found out about it through him. I didn't find out really about, I didn't really get any information about it from anyone else but him. And, so I'm really lucky to have had, the work experience that I did, working in a shop, I didn't always like it. He just had me, he kind of made me work for him to get, work ethic. But as I, worked here for longer and I got more experience and I learned how to do more things, I realized that, the apprenticeship was the right path for me, and that, I did want to become a mechanic. And the whole reason for starting my own company is to have more women, in the field of construction. I think we can do just as much as men can. And I would tell
Or more.
more. I would tell any woman to absolutely join an apprenticeship, because there's no loss in it. And there's really no disadvantages to it. You're only gaining experience, and it does take time. But we can go to college in addition, and we can pull out of it at any time and go to college instead. There's no there will never be a time in which you can't wake up one day and change your mind. So I would tell anyone that I don't regret any of my choices, and I don't think they would either.
That's great. I'm going to open this to the whole group. I think over the years, there's. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Could I ask?
Of course.
Ms. Hanks a question, because we've seen how these opportunities are so valuable, how we can open them up to other industries. I know Aaliyah was in again, seems like a non-traditional, it's not a trade idea, how we can open them up to things like banking, technology, healthcare, how we can open up apprenticeships to those areas.
Thanks so much, Chairman Scott, for that question. I think there are many ways, and some of the investments that we're making now are intended to help support that. Of course, we want to ensure that more women and people of color get into the more established trades, especially because there is so much union density in those, and we know the wages tend to be very competitive. But there are a lot of other industries where you're starting to see more apprentices. So Aaliyah is a great example. But many of the investments that we're making are really focused on sort of building into new industries. So whether that's healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, areas where this has not sort of been traditionally a path. And frankly, I think for some of the industries where women dominate, whether it's childcare or healthcare, we also want to make sure that these opportunities are available there. I was really struck by what Jenna and Katrina said about debt, right? These are opportunities that both lead to a wage, but also allow you to avoid sort of costly student debt that I know we are all eager to move away from in general, but certainly I think for people going into these programs now, and especially for women who are dealing with, a number of other sort of financial challenges and barriers, this is really an important path. So we are targeting our investments toward those new occupations while continuing to support pathways, more equitable pathways into the more established. But I think that is a goal that we share.
That's a great question. Do you have more questions, Chairman Scott?
Yeah, we had people kind of alluded to it. The avoiding student debt is one thing that people have found helpful. What other kinds of supports are necessary to help make the apprenticeship successful?
So I'm happy to start, and Wendy, I'll turn to you as well. I think, I would actually point to some of the things that Wendy mentioned in the beginning of the call around supportive services, and things that other people have raised around access to childcare, transportation, housing, and point out the sort of benefit of apprenticeship programs paying a wage. I think that's something that we can't emphasize enough. It's not only not having the debt, but it's also you have a job. Like that is, I think, an underrated, underappreciated part of this. Like this is a job from the moment you start. And so that combined with the other types of investments that we can make in workers to help them pursue and complete an apprenticeship program are really critical.
Yeah, I would double down on something actually Kelly said when you were talking about the program in terms of mentoring and how important that is in terms of pre-apprenticeship opportunities and sort of work readiness to really build skills early on as you enter into that space, but also how important really addressing harassment and bullying is so that women and people of color stay in these good jobs, right? In these pathways to good jobs. Looks like Kelly wants to say something more about that.
Kelly.
Thank you so much, Director Chun-Hoon. It's absolutely critical when we're talking about leveling the playing field, right? Especially for low-wage workers or underemployed folks or unemployed folks who are coming into registered apprenticeship. And as pre-apprenticeship training providers, both Oregon Tradeswomen Constructing Hope and others across the country who do the work we do, we know that those supportive services are critical. We're able to leverage federal highway funds that flow through the Department of Transportation in each state for OJT supportive services dollars, but those are only targeted for the highway trades. And while those are great opportunities, it doesn't allow us a funding stream to help folks that are going into other trades pathways. So we know that folks are more successful when they have that that leg up. And we talk about it as not a handout, but a hand up. So we really appreciate being able to help support folks get through their entire apprenticeship.
Thank you. That was really helpful. And I think over the years, we set this expectation that students in our K-12 system had one path, and the path was college. And that we know that's not the reality for so many people. So what can we do differently as policymakers? Would more career and technical education classes in the K-12 system help? And I'd like to hear from our more recent students in the K-12 system or in like middle school, high school. Did you have career and technical education classes that helped expose you to what it would be like to work in the trades? Does anybody have any sort of woodworking? There's a school in Oregon that has, for example, a welding class, a high school, or auto tech. Did you have the opportunity to have some of those classes, and do they help raise awareness about the paths to good jobs?
My high school did not, and I certainly wish it did, because as Kelly mentioned, it was very much, you're graduating high school in a year, you have to go to college. And it was really not something that I knew about it, again, because my dad's an electrician, but otherwise I would have no idea that that was even an option. And that's why I think the pre-apprenticeship programs are really important. And so if you can get experience, like really young, like immediately out of high school or even before, I think that's really beneficial. I'm super excited to graduate, but I wish I had started at 18 because I would have been topped out, journeyman already. So yeah, just high school students being made aware that it's an option would help quite a bit.
How can we do a better job of letting students know, or not just students, but people know? I'll ask my Oregon representatives here, Kelly and Pat. How do people find out about Oregon Tradeswomen and Constructing Hope? How do they learn about the opportunities through your organization?
Thank you for asking that question. We are actually really lucky that we don't have to do very much advertising. There's so much word of mouth from folks who've come through our program, telling their friends and their sisters, their cousin. We have a really active social media pages, so that helps us out. But we actually, this is an unfortunate place for us to be in. We have far more applicants than we can actually serve, and that makes us really sad. So we end up doing a lot of guidance and support and helping individual job seekers navigate the pipeline of apprenticeship, but we can't serve everyone who wants to come through our program just because of capacity.
And Kelly, is that because of staffing, funding, or both?
Well, funding helps us staff up, and so yeah, that's definitely it. If we were fully funded to meet and also the demand, we're really mindful of the labor demand, and we're never going to train more than the market can bear. But right now, all of our industry partners are saying, please train more folks. And Pat, I'm sure you experience the same thing, especially with COVID. We've had to put our class sizes smaller for social distancing and safety and things like that. So we're hoping to play catch up soon.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Pat?
I would just reiterate everything that Kelly just said, and adding to that, with all of our participants being low income, COVID changed everything and just showed the digital divide within the computer industry. Most people don't have the capacity to actually do online training as we had to move to just during the COVID. But when I go back and think about your question and how do people find us, I would say word of mouth is probably the #1 thing, because people don't believe, you know, she talked about having the confidence to walk through the door. It's having the confidence to walk through the door when you don't have anyone in your family that has any knowledge about construction. And the old myth is that we're not accepted. So yes, we're working through some issues, but getting people to tell the truth and tell their stories about how they maneuvered the industry, and just knowing that things are not like they used to be. But you know what? Things are still happening and we're still working on it. So I think just that. And then the other part is how we outreach. We've created partnerships and relationships. So with the organizations that we outreach to, now that they see the success of the program, and again, our social media, that's been probably the #1 thing. But I would say, can we build capacity? It's like, yes, we need dollars to expand our staff so that we can meet those needs. When we bring people into our programs, I think most people don't understand, in construction, we're providing support to our low-income people for up to 2 years. Their safety net is very small. If my car breaks down, that could be the extent of me working or not working for weeks and having to go back on the list to be out of work to get back to work, which is just an issue in how the culture of what that how the industry works. So I would say usually it is the word of mouth and seeing the success stories, much like the ladies here, and saying, I didn't know, I was afraid, but let me help you walk through that door and know that we're going to support you to be successful.
Well, it seems like walking through that door is such a good decision. And Danielle, I know you put some great comments in the chat. Did you want to add anything to the conversation?
Sure. I would just like to add that there are other opportunities out there, especially in the transportation system. That's actually where I come from. I was a railroad electrician by trade. And like a lot of the others said on this call, I'm actually a former Army. I was a soldier, and it took one of my fellow battle buddies to tell me to come work with her in the shop. And that's how I had the bravery to go in that door and think that I could achieve that. And it gave me opportunities. I actually graduated with a degree, and I wasn't making the same amount of money that I could in a locomotive shop as an electrician. And it gave me and my family opportunities, and the ability to give my family health care and a future, and get off of social assistance was life-changing for us. So there are plenty of opportunities, and that we can grow to have more diversity throughout different modes of transportation as well as construction.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for your service. And what a wonderful conversation. And before I know we're getting close to the end of the time, but I just wanted to ask, does anybody have anything additionally to add before we make some closing remarks?
I have a shameless plug. And this
Okay,
is for Kelly and I, because when I think about the conversation, I think it goes a little broader, in that one of the things that Kelly has and we have together is a diversity summit. And having people come to that diversity summit, and also understanding how to enter apprenticeship, how to support the people who are there to stay in the apprenticeship, and how to bring more people in of color and just introduce folks who have never been introduced before, to say that it is a welcoming environment.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And our Department of Labor, would you like to add some closing remarks?
I just want to acknowledge that almost to a T, each one of you said you heard about it from a friend. Mm-hmm. And our secretary, Angela's overseeing this, but our secretary just announced an apprenticeship ambassador program. Each one of you is an ambassador. We really need to be partnering together. Word of mouth from a trusted source like each of you is going to go a long way. The Women's Bureau has a strategy. Actually, we're trying to reach out to women at a younger age to really, let them know this is a really viable and promising path. So thank you to each of you for what you're doing and spreading the word, and let's figure out a way to work together.
Thank you, Director Chun-Hoon, and Assistant Secretary Hanks. Would you like to make some closing remarks?
I'll just be brief and say thank you so much. It was really wonderful, both to hear from you, Congresswoman, and from Chairman Scott, but also from the apprentices themselves. I think this is, I think we've all heard these are really incredible opportunities, but it's also really hard work, right? And so I really appreciate you all coming here today, sharing your stories for the work that you're doing, and the work you're doing to inspire other women in the fields you're in as well. I think that's really exciting. So there's much more that I hope we can do together. Wendy mentioned the ambassador program. You can learn more at apprenticeship.gov. We're really eager to have more folks out there, especially women, talking about the value of apprenticeship and spreading the word. So thank you so much.
That's wonderful. Chairman Scott, are you still with us? It looks, oh, Chairman Scott, would you like to make some closing remarks?
Yes. And I want to thank you, Representative Bonamici, for convening this. It's confirmed what we knew, that these are great opportunities, that we need to make these opportunities more available, that right now about 1/3 of the people seeking these opportunities can be accommodated. And that's why the Build Back Better Act is so important. We have those investments and we have to really beef up the apprenticeships. It works. People have the opportunities and we need the workforce. So it's a win-win-win. And I want to thank you for bringing everybody together to confirm what we know and to encourage us to keep going forward.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you everyone for joining us as we celebrate the passage of the infrastructure bill, which was very, very exciting accomplishment, and then the Build Back Better Act, which is we hope within the next couple of days at least we'll get that through the House and then soon through the Senate. We are looking at a lot of jobs, good union jobs, good paying jobs in Oregon and across the country. So, and we want those job opportunities to be available to everyone, including people historically left behind, women and people of color especially. So, and a path to those jobs is a very good path to those jobs is through pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. So thank you for sharing your stories. As I said earlier, when we hear stories, it's so much more meaningful to know how the policies and the investments we're making are really affecting and changing lives for the better. So thank you for joining us. You're all, as we heard, you're all ambassadors now. It was wonderful to have you join us and to share your stories. Best of luck. Please keep in touch with all of us. We want to know how you're doing in your path and your path to success. So thank you for sharing and spending the time with us today. Take care, everybody. Thank you again. Take care.